Let's start again with this chapter, beta. Part 2. How the first letter was written.
3.4 How the first letter
How the
was
first letter was
written.
written.
Once upon a most early time was a Neolithic man,
ये रहा
and he lived cavily in a cave, and he wore very few clothes, and he couldn't read,
Cavily circle karo. This is a word coined by the poet. And here it is used.
and he couldn't write, and he didn't want to, and except when he was hungry, he was quite happy.
So when he was not happy, only when he was hungry.
Neolithic means belonging to
later part of the Stone Age. बराबर बेटा? बराबर आचल बच्चा?
later part of Stone Age. His name was Tegumai Bopsulai, and that means man who does not put his foot forward in a hurry.
जो बहुत सोच समझ के काम करें. But we, O best beloved, will call him Tegumai for short.
But we, O best beloved, will call him Tegumai for short. To put one's foot forward means to take the initiative or to make the first attempt. And his wife's name was Teshumai Tivindro, and that means lady who asks a very many questions. But we, O best beloved, will call her Teshumai for short. And his little girl daughter's name was Tafimai Mitlumai, and that means small person without any manners who ought to be spanked.
Spank means beaten.
But I'm going to call her Taffy. Spanked means slap with one's hand or flat object. And she was Tegumai Bopsulai's best beloved and her own mummy's best beloved, and she was not spanked half as much as was good for her, and they were all three very happy. Now attend and listen. Tegumai Bopsulai went down through the beaver swamp to the Vagai river to spear carp fish for dinner, and Taffy went too.
To spear, यहाँ पे spear is used as an infinitive as a verb. Carp fish is a kind of fish for dinner, and Taffy went too. Spear actually noun है, but यहाँ पे as an infinitive use हुआ है as a verb. To spear means to kill with a spear.
Swamp means a marshy land.
Marshy land.
Tegumai's spear was made of wood with shark's teeth at the end. And before he had caught any fish at all, he accidentally broke it clean across by jabbing it down too hard.
Jabbing means by pulling it too down, pushing it too down, too hard on the bottom of the river. So toot gaya.
On the bottom of the river. Accidentally means by chance. Jabbing means poke roughly with something sharp. They were miles and miles from home, and Tegumai had forgotten to bring any extra spears. Here's a pretty kettle of fish, said Tegumai. A pretty kettle of fish means
a messy situation. ये बहुत ही important है. Kids, please, आप लोग वैसे तो कभी घर पे पढ़ने वाले नहीं हो textbook. तो please अभी मेरे साथ पढ़ लो तो better रहेगा बेटा. हाँ बच्चा. और speak. सौम्या, अक्षय, आप लोग अगर जोर जोर से घर पे ये पूरा बोलेंगे ना, that is also it's like you have spoken 1 hour English continuously. है ना बेटा? So please, everyone out there, I request, a humble request, speak with the writer. And in the way, मेरे ख्याल से इससे better तो आप लोग भी read कर सकते हो.
A messy situation.
Very important.
It will take me half the day to mend this. Mend means to repair. There's your big black spear at home, said Taffy. Let me run back to the cave and ask Mummy to give it me. It's too far for your little fat legs, said Tegumai. Besides, you might fall into the beaver swamp and be drowned. We must make the best of a bad job. He sat down and took out a little leather mendy bag full of reindeer sinews and strips of leather and lumps of beeswax and resin, and began to mend the spear. Sinews means muscular
Leather mending यानी के a bag with mending instruments. Mending यानी के repair करने के. Reindeer sinews means muscular structures. Reindeer के कुमार के उसके muscular structures होते हैं वो. Strips of leather. Lumps means big lump बोलते हैं ना ढेर of beeswax and raisin. Raisin is a sticky liquid which you get from the trees. And began to mend the spear. It's like gum से चिटकाने का काम.
Structure. Taffy sat down too, with her toes in the water and her chin in her hand, and thought very hard. Then she said, I say, Daddy, it's an awful nuisance that you and I don't know to write, isn't it? Awful means strange. Nuisance means person or thing causing inconvenience. If we did, we could send a message for the newsphere. Just then, a stranger man came along the river, but he belonged to a far tribe, the Tevaras, and he did not understand one word of Tegumai's language. He stood on the bank and smiled at Taffy because he had a little girl daughter of his own at home. Tegumai drew a hank of deer sinews from his mending bag and began to mend his spear.
Hank carrying a large number of.
Spear. Hank means loosely tied bundle of strings. Come here, said Taffy. Do you know where my mummy lives? And the stranger man said, Silly, said Taffy, and she stamped her foot because she saw a shoal of a very big carp going up the river.
Why did she stamp the foot? Because she saw a shoal of a very big carp.
River just when her daddy couldn't use his spear. Shoal means place of shallow water. Don't bother grown-ups, said Tegumai, so busy with his spear mending that he did not turn round. I aren't, said Taffy. I only want him to do what I want him to do, and he won't understand. Then don't bother me, said Tegumai, and he went on pulling and straining at the deer sinews with his mouth full of loose ends. Straining means to injure or to weaken. The stranger man, a genuine Tevara he was, sat down on the grass, and Taffy showed him what her daddy was doing. The stranger man thought, this is a very wonderful child. She stamps her foot at me, and she makes faces. She must be the daughter of that noble chief who is so great that he won't take any notice of me. So he smiled more politely than ever.
Getting it? Claps for all those जिनके sweet चेहरे मुझे दिख रहे हैं और वो लोग
Now, said Taffy, I want you to go to my mummy because your legs are longer than mine and you won't fall into the beaver swamp. And ask for Daddy's other spear, the one with the black handle that hangs over our fireplace. The stranger man thought.
उसको कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा था. उसको लगा
this is a very, very wonderful child. She waves her arms and he shouts at me. But I don't understand a word of what she says. But if I don't do what she wants, I greatly fear that that haughty chief, man who turns his back on callers, will be angry. Haughty means arrogant, superior, or proud. He got up and twisted a big flat piece of bark of a birch tree and gave it to Taffy. He did this, best beloved, to show that his heart was as white as the birch bark and that he meant no harm. But Taffy didn't quite understand. Oh, said she, now I see. You want my mummy's living address? Of course I can't write, but I can draw pictures if I've anything sharp to scratch with. To scratch means to scrape with a sharp object. Please lend me the shark's tooth off your necklace. The stranger man, and he was a Tevara, didn't say anything. So Taffy put up her little hand and pulled at the beautiful bead and seed and shark tooth necklace around his neck. The stranger man, and he was a Tevara, thought, this is a very, very, very wonderful child. The shark's tooth on my necklace is a magic shark's tooth. And I was always told that if anybody touched it without my leave, they would immediately swell up
पढ़ो
or
बेटा
burst. But
हर्ष
this
पढ़
child doesn't swell up or burst. And that important to Chief, man who attends strictly to his business, who has not yet taken any notice of me at all, doesn't seem to be afraid that she will swell up or burst. I had better be more polite.
वेरी गुड एक्सप्रेशंस बाय ऑल बराबर उसको इसको ये आश्चर्य हुआ कि उसके बापू को भी नहीं पड़ी कि उसकी बेटी फूल के फट जाएगी बेटर बी मोर पोलाइट
So he gave Taffy the shark's tooth, and she lay down flat on her tummy with her legs in the air, like some people on the drawing floor room when they want to draw pictures. Tummy means stomach. And she said, "Now I'll draw you some beautiful pictures. You can look over my shoulder, but you mustn't joggle."
joggle का मतलब
Joggle means to move with repeated small jerks.
धक्का मत मारना जी धक्का मत
First, I'll draw Daddy fishing. This isn't very like him, but Mummy will know because I've drawn his spear all broken. Well, now I'll draw the other spear that he wants, the black-handled spear. It looks as if it was sticking in Daddy's back, but that's because the shark's tooth slipped and this piece of bark isn't big enough. That's the spear I want you to fetch. So I'll draw a picture of me, myself, splaining to you. Splain means to explain.
मस्त है
My hair doesn't stand up like I've drawn, but it's easier to draw that way. Now I'll draw you. I think you're very nice, really, but I can't make you pretty in the picture. So you mustn't be fended. Are you fended? Fended means to look after oneself without any help. The stranger man, and he was a Tevara, smiled. He thought, there must be a big battle going to be fought somewhere, and this extraordinary child, who takes my magic shark's tooth, but who does not swell up or burst, is telling me to call all the great chief's tribe to help him. He is a great chief, or he would have noticed me. Look, said Taffy, drawing very hard and rather scratchily. Now I've drawn you, and I've put the spear that Daddy wants into your hand, just to remind you that you too bring it. Now I'll show you how to find my mummy's living address. You go along till you come to 2 trees. Those are trees. And then you go over a hill. That's a hill. And then you come into a beaver swamp, all full of beavers. I haven't put in all the beavers because I can't draw beavers, but I've drawn their heads, and that's all you'll see of them when you cross the swamp. Mind you don't fall in. Then, our cave is just beyond the beaver swamp. It isn't as high as the hills really, but I can't draw things very small. That's my mummy outside. She's beautiful. She's the most beautifulest mummy there ever was. But she won't be offended when she sees I've drawn her so plain. Offended means take care of oneself.
Offended means feel bad.
She'll be pleased of me because I can draw. Now, in case you forget, I've drawn the spear that Daddy wants outside our cave. It's inside really, but you show the picture to my mummy and she'll give it to you. I made her holding up her hands because I know she'll be so pleased to see you. Isn't it a beautiful picture? And do you quite understand? Or shall I explain again? The stranger man, and he was a Tevara, looked at the picture and nodded very hard. He said to himself, if I do not fetch this great chief's tribe to help him, he will be slain by his enemies who are coming up on all sides with spears. Slain means killed mercilessly. Now I see why the great chief pretended not to notice me. He feared that his enemies were hiding in the bushes and would see him. Therefore he turned his back and let the wise and wonderful child draw the terrible picture showing me his difficulties. I will away and get help for him from his tribe. He did not even ask Taffy the road, but raced off into the bushes like the wind, with the birch bark in his hand, and Taffy sat down most pleased. Now this is the picture that Taffy had drawn for him. What have you been doing, Taffy? Said Tegumai. He had mended his spear and was carefully waving it to and fro. "It's a little derangement of my own, Daddy dear," said Taffy. "If you won't ask me questions, you'll know all about it in a little time, and you'll be surprised." "You don't know how surprised you'll be, Daddy. Promise you'll be surprised." "Well," said Tegumai, and went on fishing.
बेटा समझ में आया ये? अब तक का समझ में आया बेटा पूरा? हम लोग अभी कंप्लीट कर ही देते हैं. थैंक यू फॉर योर पार्टिसिपेशन. कई लोग बहुत अच्छे ढंग से पढ़ भी रहे हैं मेरे साथ ही, एंड आई लाइक दैट. प्लीज कंटिन्यू रीडिंग. वी हैव जस्ट अ फ्यू थिंग्स लेफ्ट. 2 minutes, not more. और फिर मैं कल का टाइम बता दूंगा.
The stranger man, did you know he was a Tevra?
दोबारा
Hurried away with the picture and ran for some miles till quite by accident he found Teshumai Tivindro at the door of her cave talking to some other Neolithic ladies who had come in to a primitive lunch. Taffy was very like Teshumai, especially about the upper part of the face and the eyes. So the stranger man, always a pure Tevra, smiled politely and handed Teshumai the birch bark. He had run hard so that he panted and his legs were scratched with brambles, but he still tried to be polite. Brambles means wild prickly bushes. As soon as Teshumai saw the picture, she screamed like anything and flew at the stranger man. The other Neolithic ladies at once knocked him down and sat on him in a long line of 6, while Teshumai pulled his hair. "It's as plain as the nose on the stranger man's face," she said. "He has stuck my Tegumai all full of spears and frightened poor Taffy so that her hair stands all on end. And not content with that, he brings me a horrid picture of how it was done. Look!" She showed the picture to all the Neolithic ladies sitting patiently on the stranger man. "Here is my Tegumai with his arm."
फोटो नहीं बताया मगर विजुअलाइज करो, उस बंदे पे ये 6 लेडीज बैठी हैं और वो पिक्चर को शांति से देख रही है. कितना अजीब लग रहा होगा.
"Arm broken. Here is a spear sticking into his back. Here is a man with a spear ready to throw. Here is another man throwing a spear from a cave. And here are a whole pack of people." They were Taffy's beavers, really, but they did look rather like people, coming up behind Tegumai. Isn't it shocking?
बेटा समझ में आया? Claps for all those who spoke till the end. Very good. So that was a Merry Christmas, and I hope so you like this story. Thank you, thank you, thank you.